to another psychoeducation session. I am so happy that you're here and that you want to learn more about matters mental health, psychology and psychotherapy. So in today's video, I'll basically be answering questions coming out of what I've had people ask about psychotherapy over the years and psychologists and I guess the whole practice of psychology. So the list won't be exhausted, but it's a good start. And if at the end of this video you have questions, you can put them in the comments below, or you could send me an email or a WhatsApp message and I'll be sure to respond to you. So let's get right into it, yeah? Right, so why psychotherapy? This is a process that helps you to explore your thoughts, your feelings, and your patterns of behavior, right? In a way that you are able to do so based on where you are with your conscious awareness without necessarily having to force your way through it. You know, psychotherapy is really voluntary. So you first must have the desire to want to discover for yourself how your coping mechanisms, especially that one of denial, is protecting you, right? Because we have these protective features that, you can't see them, you can't touch them, but they're there. And that's how you are able to protect your ego. So they come to ensure that they protect you, even if it is from yourself. So the process of psychotherapy is not necessarily to remove those coping mechanisms in order to hurt you, but it is to bring an awareness to some of these feelings, thoughts, and patterns of behavior to give you more ability to have conscious action on them, that you can now be present in your feelings, you can be present in your thoughts, you can be present in your patterns of behavior, and therefore you cease to be compulsive, right? Or you cease to be at the mercy of what hurts you the most or your vulnerability. So that's why psychotherapy. And if that is not a satisfactory answer, please do write me and I will definitely expand on that question further. So another question is, how long does therapy take, right? So therapy is doesn't cut across the board, right? Because it depends on where you are with your awareness. It depends on, for example, if you had some history with psychotherapy or any other process that was able to create a situation where you became inflective and you are able to point out for yourself what's going on in terms of your thoughts, your feelings, and your patterns of behavior, and generally how you're interfacing with the rest of the world. And that said, you have people who actually, out of one session, take conscious action, like they just have this aha moment that they just really on board and everything changes for them. You can have 5 sessions, you can have 10, 21, you can have some couple of weeks, a couple of months, a couple of years, and for some people it's a lifetime. And maybe just to speak about my profession, which is psychology, I think for me it's a lifetime, right? For my own person and for myself as a professional. And I mentioned that just so that you know that it is something that is not necessarily cast in stone in terms of time. It all depends on whether the process is serving you and whether you want to continue with it. And yeah, that's basically it, okay? Ooh, why is psychotherapy so hard? Right? I guess for me, my short answer is to say that because it is emotional surgery without anesthesia. Yeah, that's honestly, that's what I think of it 100%. Because we are talking about a process and a situation where you are asked to come face to face with your anxieties, your fears, the stories and the narratives you've been telling yourself, about other people, about the world, that may necessarily not have come from a place of strength or power or love, that probably is on a foundation of trauma or a bad experience or misinformation. So I guess it's hard because you have to come face to face with your own self, with your own biggest coping mechanism, which is denial, right? So yeah, some difficult truths comes out of that. And in the beginning, it may seem as though you're being confrontational with yourself. But then again, it like evolves to a point where you feel the therapist is being confrontational with you. It's a normal process, and at this point you have people who drop out of therapy altogether and they actually don't come back. And you have those others who are able to consider the carefrontation, right? They are able to put it in perspective as a carefrontation as opposed to a confrontation. And they are able to stick with the process. So I hope I'm explaining why therapy is hard. It's not hard all the time. Like, it's really hard in the beginning, I must be honest with you. It's really hard in the beginning, but over time, when you actually notice the dance you're doing in yourself with your own unconscious mind in an unconscious way, then you have the ability to very quickly transform that to like a conscious awareness and carefront yourself, right? Great. Next question. Why are psychotherapists so expensive? I guess it depends on what the qualifications are, the years of experience, the years of training, the years of exposure. It's all about professional development that is there. I don't know what more to say about it besides that, right? And I guess I'll talk a little bit more about that on a question I'm seeing down here, and expand a little bit further on that hopefully will help you to understand why psychotherapists are so expensive, which again is relative, right? And it depends on whether you have insurance or you don't, which actually brings us to the next question as to why do psychotherapists choose not to take insurance? Let me tell you, it's been tough. Like, the relationship between therapists and insurance companies, first of all, in this country, is like existing within the understanding of psychiatry as the longest existing mental health care discipline that cares for people in this nation. So let me just tell you what it is, right? So a typical therapy session will take between 50 minutes to an hour, right? Like, that's the length of one session, okay? And if you've ever had the experience of visiting a psychiatrist or being a patient of one, you know that sometimes that interaction doesn't last longer than, I'll give it 15 minutes max, right? So out of that, you find that there's a charge of between 3,000 or 5,000 that is usually charged for those, whether 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, okay? And of course, everything is managed within a filing system if it's an inpatient sort of hospital, and that is basically it. So when you come again to psychotherapy, we are talking about an hour and the paperwork, the testing, it's basically a lot. I think, I don't want to say that there's no psychologist I know who will review a client for an hour for 3,000 shillings, because I know it's happening. But it's happening because there hasn't been that conversation about the proper pricing based on the previous answer I gave to the question as to why psychotherapists are so expensive. So yeah, time spent with the client. Also for psychotherapists, you must go for professional supervision, right? You have, again, like I said, a lot of out-of-session work that you need to be able to do. And for every professional psychologist who is out there, there's usually a preparation before you even meet your client for that 1 hour. So there is a huge conversation that needs to happen, and a certain awareness and understanding that needs to happen in order to streamline this process, and for psychologists and insurance companies to come to an understanding. So I guess that's just a work in progress. Great. So the last question is, why is there stigma around psychotherapy? Wow. Why is there stigma around psychotherapy? You know, I feel like issues to do with mental health are already a taboo. So seeking psychotherapy is sort of related to the taboo around mental health, and therefore, how can psychotherapy not suffer the stigma from that taboo? Okay?